The opening prayer by Alderman McKee, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Happy to. Bow our heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, man, we just come and humble ourselves before you. Lord, thank you for your graciousness and Lord, how much you've blessed this town. Lord, none of us are worthy of it, but Lord, we're just so grateful to be a part of it and thankful to just have our input. Lord, I just ask for prayers over our staff and Lord, my fellow aldermen and mayor, Lord, protect us, Lord, protect our townspeople. Lord, just ask for wisdom tonight in the meeting, and Lord, just all these things in your son's name, Jesus, amen.
Amen. I just met retired Lieutenant Colonel Ron Hawkins out there, so if you would be, I would be honored if you lead us in the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
No worries. I'm used to it.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the January 2nd, 2024 meeting? Motion by Mr. Harmon. Second by Mr. Brooks. Discussion or question on the minutes? All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Next up, I didn't grab a card, but we have grievances and comments from citizens. We do have cards outside. If not, we have some up here we can do, but it's a chance we give anybody to come up and speak on any particular topic. Please note that it's not necessarily a Q&A. We won't be able to answer questions tonight, most likely, but staff will take your information and get back with you. But you can talk on any topic, whether it's on the agenda tonight or not. We do have a public hearing. If you're here to speak on the actual public hearing later, we ask you to wait and do that then. But if you are wanting to come forward and speak, we just ask you to state your name and address for the record, and we'll give you up to about 3 minutes. Is anyone here to speak? We don't have any cards, but I didn't know if anybody's here to speak.
I'll speak.
Yes, sir. If you'll come up, and then we'll get your... Yes, sir. And staff, since we don't have the card, she'll fill out your name and address right here if you'll just say that in the... You can just say it.
John Franklin, 6005 Marley. That's correct.
Did you say Marvin?
M-A-R, L-E-Y.
Oh, okay.
901-499-6191.
Thank you. That just helps us keep it for the public record. So,
That's fine.
all right.
I just wanted to be brief. I've been here roughly 22 years as a resident of Arlington, and there have been certain things that I've come to expect from being here and that I've come to enjoy from being here. I am concerned these things are under siege at this time. I don't know whether it's through development or through more notoriety of being observed from different areas. We're taking on characteristics from other areas that I've tried to get away from because they're a little laxed on control and things like that for us, who comes in and who goes out. Just a couple nights ago, something happened to me that hadn't happened in 22 years of me being here. My vehicle was victimized and vandalized and broken into, and the thing is, we have an excellent sheriff's department around here, we do, but they can't be everywhere at once. So, to get to the point, I want to see if they get some kind of a corridor control around here, where at least can monitor who comes in and who goes out. Not saying you're gonna have it about on the thumb completely, but at least a recorded or a sentinel at each entry point, exit point of Arlington, where if something does happen, that officer or that response person could be somewhere in the loop to say, hey, you know what? This looks suspicious. Let's look at this guy. Let's check him out. Am I making any sense to you?
Yes, sir. And perfect sense. And I know we have the sheriff's department here who's going to give us a little update here on that situation the other night. And then we will probably ask a few questions that will cover some of your concerns at that time.
Other than that, this town's been, I watched it develop from when we had a little FedEx part over here and the field I used to go and jog in sometimes before they converted it to whatever it is now. I mean, it's always been a relaxing place, you know, see deer go out and eat in the front yard and just relax. Arlington was like the place I felt completely safe with my kids, you know, not worried about them getting popped a cap in or anything like that or whatever. I felt good about them being here. Now I'm starting to feel a little uneasy because of the way things are shifting here at a rapid pace.
Thank you, Mr. Marley. We will cover a little bit of that with the Sheriff's Department. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking. Was there anyone else? I didn't see any other hands. All right. So next up, we do have communications, and this will come from the Shelby County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant.
Good evening. My name is Lieutenant Brad Less. I'm with the Sheriff's Office. Can I get your address, please?
6005 Marley.
Spell it, please.
M-E-R-L-Y.
Okay. Right. So looking at the map, on particular 1/8/2024, there were 5 motor vehicle burglaries, all in the same area. Those are going to be items 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I don't know if they're numbered on there. 6. You see 5, 6, 7, 8 is on the bottom side there. So kind of like in Arlington, it looks like we had a little bit of a problem. And then as of, I think last week or this past weekend, we had several vehicles broken into as well that will be on the next week's report. The Sheriff's Office is putting more manpower during those hours. It looked like it was overnight hours that we're having. So to answer your question about looking at items that are coming in and out of the county or up in Arlington, we have flock cameras. And those flock cameras record tags, and we can go back and research what has moved through our area if we have a tag number. It doesn't necessarily tell us that that's the vehicle that committed a crime unless we have somebody that's used a doorbell camera and says that this make, model car and possibly a tag number's been involved in it. So it doesn't solve our crimes for us. We have to kind of do some old-fashioned police work and get some video or a witness. You gave them video? Okay. So we're moving towards a different share program, and we'll have more of that out. It's a program that is also being used by the city police department where you can give us access to your cameras, and we can pull the video as we need it without having to wake you up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're sharing that video with us. It's not like we're going to be looking at it any other time unless you have a problem. So a lot of businesses are giving us access to their cameras. And it's not that we're watching what's going on while you're there doing whatever you're doing at your homes or at your business. But if there is a problem, then we'll already have access to the camera, and it speeds up the time process. We had an increase of homes under construction being burglarized and thefts there. We've got additional patrols in the areas looking at that. It's going to get warmer. These construction buildings people are building more and more up here, so it's going to be, the material is what they're looking for, the wood, the concrete, things like that. So we're just telling people if you're going to have that stuff delivered, don't let it sit for long periods of time because you're inviting people to steal it. Other than that, we haven't had any reported for January violent crimes. There's been no aggravated assaults, robberies, things like that. It's just targets of opportunity, people looking in the cars. A lot of these are our kids on break, and they find that they get bored and they want to get out there and do some breaking into cars, looking for stuff. One theft from building, one motorcycle theft on 1-3. Other than that, again, no violent crime.
Yeah, just to kind of expand on the kids and the other issues with the car break-ins. I know the car break-ins, and I'm going to let Harry speak to something here in just a minute, just kind of the Wednesday mornings that he goes to real quick. But just real quick, I talked to one of the builders the other day, and most of his vandalism. Ms. Durant helped get with the Sheriff's Department, and we got some things working at that development. But most of that is actually neighborhood kids. It was stuff when they were out of school. It was nights, weekends, typical vandalism, just disruptive, disrespectful kids. So the things with the cars, I've had my car broken into, not here, but at a restaurant before, and I know the violation that feels. But and like I said, Harry may expand that. He goes a lot of these Wednesday morning things with the Sheriff's Department, where the Sheriff's Department meets with Bartlett, Memphis, the whole region. All the police officers come out here, and they all kind of do their trend tracking of crimes, and then they talk about the flock cameras and how they all connect, and whether it's the license plate or the make and model. Maybe it's not the car, but if it's a white Ford Bronco, it's going to flag it, and it's going to let you know, hey, there's a car that's maybe resembling that in the area, and it notifies them. So but that trending and that communication with all the departments is really beneficial. We're lucky it's right here across the street. But again, these thieves of opportunity going around breaking in cars, I mean, it's if you look at the dots on those maps, it just kind of, I mean, it's a trend. It goes around, and sometimes they're able to catch them with these cameras, not before they do it, but after they do it. And it just seems to be, ever since probably the last few years, that's been a nationwide trend, correct? It's not just a, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Harry, do you have anything you want to add?
The only thing is when they come out of the meetings, you know, usually you guys are able to narrow it down within the next few days of the incident, but the most important thing is making sure you're not leaving anything in your automobiles with your doors unlocked, because that's what they're looking for first, according to the Sheriff's Department. And my understanding is there's not an entry into Arlington that does not a flock camera does. It's gonna get your tag number if you have a tag. And if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you know at 5 o'clock or it happens at 3 o'clock at your house in the morning, and at 5 you notice it, the quicker you make your call in to the Sheriff's Department, the quicker they can get on that camera and see where you're at and where an automobile would have come into. So don't just turn it over to your insurance. Go ahead and make a report on it.
And I think we have, I could be wrong with the number. I mean, I don't, roughly 30 or more cameras, maybe more than that, because I know the Sheriff's Department has some. We invested in some from the town and basically turned them over to the Sheriff's Department.
Correct.
So we're trying to do what you're saying to help prevent that by recognizing, but I'm sorry, sir, we don't go, sorry. I know, we just don't go back and forth sometimes. We're just trying to address what your questions were.
So
I would add one thing. I think the frustration that I've heard from deputies is you guys kind of feel hamstrung sometimes, because even when you catch people, it's a revolving door, and there's really a lot of times it's juveniles, and they're right back out on the street even after they've been caught. And I think that's something that we have to address politically, just from the people who are in office and those type of positions. But I think that's just a big frustration that sheriff deputies have, is catch somebody and then they're back out doing the same thing.
Another thing that we're doing to try and address juvenile crime is we are currently working with Shelby County Sheriff's Department to get access to all of our cameras at our facilities, because your juveniles are hanging out in and around your parks. So we are looking at what it would take to give them access to be able to see our cameras when needed.
All right, any other questions for the Sheriff's Department or comments? Thank you, Lieutenant, for being here.
yes, sir. We're working on a couple of things too to handle some of the crime in the area. We do have plans in place for certain areas that you'll see equipment or items stationary. And you do see us in the neighborhoods, and I'm not gonna mention anybody that may have seen us or maybe gets a piece of paper from us, but we're out there and we're telling our folks to write tickets, to have moving violations and parking violations and things like that. So when you see us out there, it's what we're telling them. It's what we're telling them, but I didn't want to dime him out. But I'm just saying, we are out there, and that's part of keeping crime out. So please, park correctly, don't speed, make sure you have good tags on your cars, make sure that you're not doing things that you shouldn't be doing, and you won't necessarily have a negative interaction with the sheriff's office, but
Better put a handicap sticker.
put a Mr. McKee has met the sheriff's office on a handicap sticker. But we're not targeting the good people of Arlington. What we're doing is it's just random and it happens, but
Not everybody that works here or comes here lives here, so, yeah.
That's right.
So, I grew up in Bartlett, trust me, I was used to being pulled over quite often, so. Thank you, Lieutenant. Chief Harville, Fire Department report.
Good evening. This will be your monthly activity report for January 2024. Total of 94 responses, 47 were EMS, 47 were fire. We gave mutual aid all to the county at a number of 23 times, received it 5 times, 21 calls south of Interstate 40, and 8 of those calls were on Interstate 40. We had early in the month an apartment fire in the garage at Hall Creek Apartments. It was actually a sprinkled building, so it held it in check inside that garage. No fire extension anywhere else. We did handle a customer complaint. We had to force a door on the adjacent apartment, so we handled that internally with the complainant. We were on one other call and we had a limited resource call, and the county came in here because we were on additional calls. Total of 11 inspections, 4 smoke alarm checks, 2 smoke alarms installed. We've started our annual OSHA training to have till the end of March to complete that. All departments across the town are also working on that OSHA training. We also started our 50-plus hours of in-service training. I've just completed all of our EMS for January, started on our hazmat, SIDS, and a few other classes. We also have 2 employees that completed and passed their Fire Inspector 1 certification, and 1 employee that passed their Fire Instructor 1 certification. And that completes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Harville?
Don't you have something going on this week for anyone that's through the senior center?
Through the Senior Center, we've Mrs. Equi with Senior Center has received a grant, and she's working with her staff and some of the seniors at the Senior Center to get CPR certified adult only. And so Chief McMillan and a couple of our paramedics will be teaching that adults only CPR at our station. I believe it's Wednesday. I can't remember the date offhand. I can look it up if you need it. At 10 a.m. So.
Harry knows he's there every day.
That's right. So my hat's off to Miss Elizabeth for getting that grant to be able to do that, and I'm glad we're able to help out.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief? It always is, especially between you two. I get to sit right in the middle of it like a tennis referee. Next up, audit presentation from Alexander Thompson Arnold. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank y'all for having me. My name's Matt Wood. I'm a partner with ATA, really out of Jackson, Tennessee. We finished your audit. I think we issued it February 1st of this year. It is on the state website already. It is an unmodified opinion, which just means it's a clean audit opinion. We believe the financials to be free of material misstatement or any evidence of fraud. We had over $2 million. You had over $2 million in federal grant expenditures this year, so that required us to perform a single audit. Really on the ARPA funding, I think you had 1.7 million or something like that recognized this year of the ARPA funding. That single audit came back clean as well. We had no internal control findings reported in the financial statements. We did, because of the school audit, we don't perform, but is included in your financial statements, the discretionary grant fund for the school system was over budget like $33,000. We don't put that in your financials, but we submitted as a management letter to kind of, for lack of a better phrase, fend off the state expecting a finding. So that would be the only thing we communicated in that letter. that went to the state as well. I won't run through every page, but I wanted to highlight a few things for you, if I could. Again, understand that this is, town of Arlington, but a major piece of this is the school system, so I try and divide it up a little bit here to make some sense of it. Overall, this year, our net position was $267 million, compared to $253 million last year. If you saw page 8 of the book in front of you, because governmental financial statements of this size are a single-year presentation, this is one of the few places you can look in the financials and kind of see where we are in comparison to the prior year. So in the current year, the total increase in net position was $13.76 million compared to $20.43 in the prior year. I'll show you some of the comparisons with the budget, but overall, the school system had a little more grant funding. Last year, other projects were going on across the town, so that fluctuation from year to year isn't considered any kind of an issue. Page 9, I won't go too far here, but in total, if I look at just the general fund of the town, revenues in the general fund decreased by only $87,000. You can see a list there of 7 or 8 major categories that went up or down. Local sales tax increased $443,000. Impact fees at the bottom decreased $246,000. So you can see just fluctuations, activity from year to year. We had a large amount of sale of land and equipment last year that changed that fluctuation quite a bit. Page 10, I just want to show you a couple highlights of the budget here. So revenues were over the budgeted amounts in the general fund by $1.95 million. I noted the 2 major categories there. Intergovernmental revenues, which is basically all the revenues we receive from the state. There's about 10 different categories of that. We're more than the budgeted amounts by $673,000, mainly due to increases in state sales tax and state local sales tax. And then the actual local sales tax through the county was more than the budget amounts by just over $1 million this year. When we talk about expenditures in the middle of the page there, actual expenditures in the general fund were under the final budget amount by $1 million. Just noted some of the different categories there that were under budget. No significant change from the prior year. I quoted a moment ago, we had $2.08 million in federal grant expenditures here. That obviously doesn't include the school system. They prepare their own single audit and their own testing. They had something like $6 million. That revenue is reported in your financials, but the grants are not because they've already been reported elsewhere. But again, that audit came back clean. I've shared a percentage with this board the last several years, and how do you say whether a city's healthy or not? I'm not a finance person, I'm an auditor. My job is to make sure you're presenting them as fairly as possible to a reader of the financial statements, that there's no compliance issues elsewise. But we've tried in recent years to try and communicate how you would look in comparison to others and those kind of things. And we've came up with a percentage as simple as what the fund balance of the general fund is as a percentage of your total budgeted expenditures for that fund. Basically, I've said it here before probably, that July 1st, the start of a fiscal year for a city, is about as poor as a city is because property taxes are a few months away and we've kind of expended last year's budget. A healthy city is somewhere in the range of 25%. It basically is saying, hey, I've got this money, these funds that I can budget to get started for the year. It doesn't take into account revenues upcoming, expenditures upcoming, anything else. But it's a status check, basically. The town of Arlington's percentage this year is something like 45, just over 45%. So extremely healthy general fund financial statement, which is ultimately the driver of most of our decisions. So clean audit report, no internal control findings. The one management letter comment was related to the discretionary grant fund. And again, in reality, it's a small amount to be over budget. I think it was $33,000. So most likely just timing with some school stuff there. Happy to answer any questions anybody have for me.
Thank you for that presentation, and it's always good news to hear, and we always compliment our staff, especially our financials, headed by Ms. Owens, but of course, everybody that helps her also. So thank you all for that. Questions for Mr. Wood?
Would you say 45%? Explain that again.
Yep, the fund balance in the general fund, which is not cash, you know, I mean, that takes into account all assets, less all liabilities. I ignore the fact that there's restrictions on some of those funds, but it only decreases your percentage by just a couple points anyway. But I take total fund balance of the general fund and divide it by your budgeted expenditures in the general fund. Because basically, if you took next year out of the equation, said I don't want revenues or anything else, the max you can budget anywhere is what your fund balance is. Well, it's telling you you've got a 45% head start on creating any kind of budget, which I know it's already made at this point. You're in the middle of it by this point. But we audit several cities, smaller municipalities, that percentage can be 5 or 10%. And so every single decision about a purchase has to be accompanied by raising a tax or, you know, making some decision related to long-term debt or things like that. And that's just an unhealthy way to go about running a town. I mean, it just is. So,
But your calculation doesn't factor in what's in reserves?
it is reserves. Fund balance is reserve.
Is the 45% combined with schools and the general?
Nope.
Just
Just, I can give you,
Reserves are 2020.
I'll get you there. Let me-
Not restricted, and our budget's only 15 or 16, well, written.
Let me get to the right pages for you. Can I do that? It may be way higher than that. I may have pulled general purpose school. I'm sorry. Yes. 11.74 million, 26%. Yes. Y'all's is 220%. Is that right?
It's like 140, something like that. Yeah, we're healthy, basically.
Healthy. How about that?
You said 45%.
Well, I flipped to the page and saw general purpose school. I calculated just a minute ago. There you go. But, I mean, we audit a few that are at 50. I probably said that to this board last year. We audit a few that are 50. A municipality that is around Nashville, but not in the middle of Nashville, they get both benefits. I kind of consider that's where, I mean, even as Sisson said a moment ago, y'all are around a very major city, but not in the middle of the major city. That's where we see the higher percentages because, you know, you get a growing population, growing infrastructure, growing everything that brings not only grant money to the area, which it does, but it also brings a higher tax base to the area, and gives you a lot of opportunity to grow. Sorry about that percentage. I did pull general purpose school just a moment ago.
That's okay. Other questions or comments? Well, Kathy, you have anything to add, or Brittany? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, Matt.
You don't have to.
He doesn't have to stay.
Just say a couple words on what certificate Ricky got in receivers.
Kathy, would you, well, I'm about to get to, yeah. I think it's a good, I was gonna have Kathy say what, no, I got it. It's right here. All right, so next up, just a few, I do have a committee appointment. I need to go to we are appointing a Miss Carrie Parker to the Financial Advisory Board. We had a vacancy there, so she will be joining us at the next meeting moving on. We still have vacancy, right, Mr. Crater, on DRC that we're trying to,
Yes, sir.
yes, that we're trying to identify it has to be a specific skill set or
Landscape.
landscaping. Still trying to identify that one. But, so next up, just, I've got a few comments. First, I'll let Ms. Howell come up and just mention what's going on with the chamber right now.
Thank you. So February 14th, Valentine's Day, is the next chamber luncheon. The mayor's going to come and speak and tell us all how much he loves us at that Valentine's lunch. If you can join us, we would love for you to come. Don't forget, we're at the new site at Orion Hill, and our attendance has picked up accordingly with the move. So we're already tracking well ahead of what we would have at this point in the month before our registration. So we would love to have you. Just a couple things to also update you on. I'm in the initial phases of starting the next issue of the Town Guide. And so we can hopefully look for that sometime at the end of the summer. It takes quite a bit of coordination with different groups around town to get that publication done, but hopefully we'll have a great new town guide by the end of the summer. And also glad to be working with the town on a new video project that we'll be marketing to lots of constituencies, to the town itself, our residents, the surrounding area, and key to get our workforce needs in front of the university system where we can recruit engineers for Microport, Stryker, Rich Products, those types of folks who are desperately trying to hire and stay in front of the big blue oval city. So thank you for your support.
Thank you, Tanya. Any questions for Tanya? Just a few things. Kathy, will you, since Mr. Vice Mayor McKee said that, will you explain the award that Mrs. Owens had?
Ms. Owens recently received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Tennessee Government Finance Officers Association. It is the second year in a row that Ms. Owens has received this award, and the first time she's been the first person who's ever achieved that for the town of Arlington.
Good job, Brittany. Thank you. Thank you. You make our job, you make us easier, and you make us look good. So, thank you. No, it's all the hard work of her and her staff. So we appreciate it. A few things. I think you all saw that the state land is officially ours over there off 380 Milton Wilson. So I think you all know that where we'll be going with a master development plan on that. And so that's exciting to get that behind us, because sometimes in government bureaucracy of even just closing a deal on land could take 3 times as long as what it should, and this one actually moved fairly fast. So thank you, Mr. Lawson, Mr. Ann, on all that. Streetlights, LED streetlights. I think you guys saw the email, but if you didn't, they will be meeting, I think, February 19th or so out here, and start on the airline 70 side, work south, and we expect that to take 2 to 3 weeks, Mrs. Durant?
Yes, sir.
So 2 to 3 weeks, and so for those of you in the audience who don't, we're converting all of our lights in town from the kind of the old kind of soft white. They're going to be a little crisper LED light, which with security concerns and lighting concerns will help light some of those. And the advantage of those is a lot of times when they go out, nobody reports it. We don't know, because staff usually works during the day. They self-report themselves. They give us some technology options of, if we wanted to put cameras on individual light poles, we can. We can put Wi-Fi on those poles. I mean, those are things that we're working with MLG&W. Doug McGowan kind of gave us a little update, and they've already kind of started looking at the camera option. So as they're going through the county putting these on, that will be some additional options for security or services at some point. So it's really a good program. So that's going to be basically a long-term, a cost-neutral changeover for us. So that's exciting. Let's see, TML's next month. So for everybody, remember, we're not meeting on the first Monday of the month. We're meeting on the first Tuesday of the month next month, March 5th. I know myself and Mr. McKee, Vice Mayor McKee, I don't know if anybody else is going. So several of us may be up there, and we'll be kind of trying to lobby on a lot of these things that our legislators are, whether it's the crime issue, whether it's the state shared sales tax, and some other things. We'll be trying to do our part up there. I didn't check the schedule did we make any adjustments for our meetings during spring break next month? I know that seems to be an option during spring break and fall break.
There's no DRC.
There's no DRC? Okay. So I just thought I'd make sure we did that. And then, of course, I saw a schedule today. I think y'all are aware, we have a presidential election, we have county, Arlington, we have local primaries, all over the next, I think there's early voting starting for next week over at the Safe Room. And then, so we'll have 3 different elections this year, one in February, one in August, and one in November. So just for all the different local, state, and federal offices. So that's all the comments I have. Anybody have anything they'd like to add? Any announcements? Okay. Move on then. Any committee reports from this last month? All right. So we do have the treasurer's report is on file. And so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Biggs. Second by Mr. McKee. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Next up is old business. Second and final reading of ordinance 2024-01 to amend the Town of Arlington zoning ordinance with all the different language in here, prohibiting short-term rental units. We do have a public hearing on this. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Crater. This is our only really discussion item tonight, so.
All right, as short-term rentals become more prevalent around the country, Arlington finds itself in a situation where we have no guidance or regulations on this issue. As such, staff has researched the topic, including examples of language used in other municipalities as well as Tennessee law concerning the subject. November 2022, recommended amendment was brought before the Planning Commission with language to regulate and manage short-term rentals and received a positive recommendation. This was not brought forward to the board because of concerns that the current staff is not adequate to uphold the requirements of the amendment. So further research and precedent set by other local municipalities has caused staff to reevaluate it. Reevaluates its initial position and interpretation of state laws concerning the short-term rental units. The following proposal reflects this interpretation, ultimately banning this use due to the transient nature of the use. And board passed a resolution banning short-term rental units, and this proposal represents changes to the zoning ordinance to uphold that resolution. Staff proposes amendments to Chapter 2 definitions, Section 211 of the zoning code. Staff proposed the addition of a definition for short-term rental units. And it's defined as you read there. Additional amendments are proposed to Chapter 4 zoning districts, bulk regulations and uses, Section 4.8, uses permitting in zoning districts of the zoning code. Amendments include the addition of short-term rental units as listed using reference used as a listed use referencing Note 1. And Note 1 was added. It includes the same language that was in the initial ordinance passed. And it just basically says the transient activity of short-term rental units is prohibited in all zoning districts. Planning Commission unanimously made a recommendation on a proposed amendment to take it forward as written. Planning Commission's recommendation was Planning Commission's recommendation was forwarded to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for their consideration, and this item has been heard for a first reading, and any recommended changes are included for the second reading to include a public hearing. That concludes the presentation on that, and a public hearing is required.
All right, you heard the recommendation by Mr. Crater. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. Brooks. Second by Mr. Harmon. All right, we are on the main motion, but we do have a public hearing, so do I have a motion to suspend the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting and open the public hearing? A motion by Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Biggs. I was coming before you even said it. All right, we are now, the main meeting is suspended. We're on the public hearing. This public hearing is for the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-01 to amend the Arlington zoning ordinance. This public hearing was published on the Daily News on January 9th, 2024. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this request, please come forward and state your name and address to be recognized. Is anyone here to speak on the public hearing only? All right, Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and resume the meeting? Motion by Vice Mayor McKee, second by Mr. Biggs. Back on the main motion. Discussion or questions for staff? Seeing none. I know. And just so for those few in the audience that are here, the reason there's no discussion, when it's a second and final reading, we've had this before as a first reading, and we've had emails and conversations before on this. So it's not that, sometimes people don't know the process. I just want everybody to know the process. So this is just the final step. So no discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Any other old business, Mrs. Owens? No, sir. Any new business to add? All right, do I have a motion to approve the bills for payment? Motion by Mr. Brooks, second by Mr. Biggs. Any objection? That motion passes. Any other announcements before we get a motion to adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion by Mr. Biggs, second by Mr. McKee. Any objection? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.